Welcome back to another episode in our podcast. You have been joining with us for a few weeks now. But who are we? And in this episode, we want to give you a little behind the scenes of who we are as individuals. Now, life has a way of taking us on this journey. And it is said that it is a journey of many paths. Where did we start? Where did we come from? Where were we born? Where did we grow up? What were some of the challenges that we met along the way? And how were we able to overcome those challenges? We want to focus on that or these things in this episode so that we can share the lessons that we have learned so you too can be guided as you take your own journey. My first question is a very obvious one. Where did you all come from? Which part of it born? What were your early beginnings? Siblings? How did you grow up? What was life like for you growing up?
Where I come from?
Yes.
I hear who upset my mother. Quite frankly, that is so true.
Yeah.
But I was born in Maypen. No, I lie. Born in Spanish Town, raised in Maypen and Old Harbour. The funny thing about it, my mom and dad, they're not together. So I was living basically two lives. I remember one time you spoke about the child wearing the Sabbath church today and the Sunday church. That was me at one point, yes? So I grew up in Maypen with my mom, and occasionally, every holiday, not one holiday would pass and I don't reach at my father's house. It was 5 of us, a stepbrother, 2 brothers, 2 younger brothers, and a sister that is 1 year older than I am. That's on the father's side. It was, growing up there was really, really a happy time. We were young. Kids. We would have played a little game them, stocky, all these things. So it was good growing up in Old Harbour. Back at my mom, it was really about school, it's church and all those things. I was the youngest one there. My sister, who was about 10 years older than me, she's a different age group. She's going off to college, so I didn't really see much of her at that point in time. But other than that, it was a good life growing up back and forth. Right. So until my teenage years, I was living back and forth, and now I'm here living with my mom in Maypen. Right.
Alrighty then. I am from cool Manchester. Not really in the hills of Manchester. I'm close to the border of Clarendon and Manchester. I grew up in Porus, and I lived in Porus for most of my life until I got married. I came to Clarendon. But my childhood days, I have a sister and a brother. It was very good, pretty stable home, pretty stable family. We are church people, and most of what we do was surrounding church. And so basically I'm a church girl, and I love it. My grandfather, he was the founder for the church that we attend. So we had to open church, we had to clean church, everything that surrounds church. That was us. So pretty much that's about it for me.
All right. So for me, basically, I grew up in Brandon Hill until the age of about 12 or 13. While there, I attended the Brandon Hill Primary School. I lived with an aunt and some cousins. I'm an only child. So, yes, I spent my time growing up with cousins. So, they're the persons who I played with and had a lot of fun with. After reaching grade 6 and sitting the exam, I graduated to a school here in Maypen. And that's where my journey or my present situation lies, in the sense that I now live in Maypen. So I attended high school in Maypen, moved to college in Kingston, came back to Maypen, and here I am.
Well, I think I have the most interesting one. I grew up in the westernmost parish, Westmoreland, in a remote rural district where I think most of the persons around were family members, because at some point lands were owned by family, which later was subdivided, and then a lot of family lived around. For my own family, I'm the last of 9 children. And there were three brothers. They came first, 1, 2, 3, and then 6 girls. For me, I was always thought of as the wash belly. You know what that term means? Wash belly. And everybody thought that I was spoiled because my mother, maybe she didn't intend to have any more. So then I came so that they believe I had special treatment. I didn't think so. But because my sister before me is 4 years older than I, Monique, it means there was a little distance in terms of closeness. And of course, I was the talker. Because if they did anything when my mother was not there, and my mother ever knew about it, I mean, everybody would be against me. Because I may carry the news. It's me tell my mother. And the truth is, after I got to a certain age, my mother liked to send me with them. Because then certain things that she would not that they used to do anything, but to ensure that they don't do anything out of the way, out of her, what she would expect. So exactly, Michelle, I was the spy, and I got many mistreatment. You know, the rolling of the eyes, the cutting of the eyes, going with them. That they have at that time, they never have parties and so on. We used to have like picnics. What they used to call them again? But anyway, it was like, I remember the man in the district, he had a beautiful lawn or whatever, and they would have these fairs in the day, so we would get a chance to go in the day. But you know, you have to watch the sun, because you can't come in after the sun is down. So of course I am there, so they have to take me home. So their wings clip, you know, they have to come home too. Right, but growing up was fun. Growing up was fun because can you imagine a home with all of these girls, especially when it is holiday time? My mother was a hard worker. She was a church person. We grew up also in church and taking part in church activities. What other activities were there anyway? That's right. Besides church activities. But we had a good representation of persons in the same church, and there were cousins that live in close proximity. We were close. So all of that was good. So we did all the childish things. Our house had, you know what, the under cellar? Mm-hmm. Yes, because the house was on a hill like, and so you could go under the bottom of the house like, you cook, make dolly pot, and we used to cut up some bush because that one is this food, and you have it in this, and you cook dolly food, and all of that kind of stuff. All of those things I did, along with my sisters. But after a while, it was me. But we had our own set of chores to do, and the chores were graduated according to age group. You don't know about those days when you have to clean the floor, and you have to use the coconut brush and the wax. Yes. So my duty was to clean under the bed, and under those places because I am the smallest one, so I can go under there and all of that kind of thing. Yes, that's where I come from. We never have electricity. We never have running water. Although I don't even think they have running water. But we had electricity after a while because my big brother anyway worked with JPS, and I guess his influence made us get electricity maybe before we would have normally got it. But then outside of that, parish tank. Anybody know about parish tank? You never go anywhere and see one big concrete catchment and a big old tank come down there, so? That's right. Well, that is where the rainwater is caught. It drains down in the tank, and then people go and they can get water to take. After a while, we had our own tank. Talk about carry things on your head. If you had to go for water, you put the kerosene pan on your head and you carry it and stuff like that. I mean to say, when it's drought, then you really need a cutter because you had to go to the well where there was always water. There you did the washing and stuff like that. And so, but it was a happy time, very happy time. We had everything that we wanted to eat on the land. Vegetables planted. You could have always go down there and pick cucumbers, pick this. We had breadfruit, we had mangoes, we had apples. Otaiti apples, everything was there, and by seasons, cane, ripe banana, bananas that just ripe into the thing. You could just go down there and you buck up on a little banana that had bunch and all of them ripe. We never had any need for food. You want me to tell you the whole night? In other words, it was just fun growing up in the country. Of course, let me just finish here and tell you that is your barefooted you're running on, because everybody walked barefoot and everybody got to school barefooted. That's where I come from. That's where my beginnings are. But a very disciplined home, a very, I tell you, we're a very religious home. And my mother instilled one thing in us apart from our respect for God and the place He should have in our lives, demonstrating how we had worship and participation and stuff like that, was that it's education that's going to move you from here. Remember at that time, Jamaica was where it's brown-skinned people were like in banks, and a certain set of people would be employed or got the first chance of employment. So if we weren't go, we're not brown skin. So if you're going to go, you have to do it with what you have up here. And what you have up here, nobody can take it from you. So character development, yes, that was. And very well ordered home, how you eat, how you talk, and the truth of it, that we were not encouraged to use the dialect that is in our corners and where we're doing. But once we are presenting ourselves, we had to present ourselves in a very disciplined and orderly way. And of course, it was the days when children don't speak unless you are asked to join in the conversation. But it was good. It was fun, really fun. Moonshine night, when you sit down and you eat cane and apple and chat up a story and all that kind of thing. It was indeed a very good childhood, though.
I never had the country excitement like Joan did. And I never grew up in the rural area. I'm from Kingston. Under the clock. In fact, I was born almost in the middle of halfway tree. I was born in the Kencut area. So I'm a Kingstonian. Later moved here to Clarendon. But for much of my childhood, both my parents separated when I was, 7, 8 years old. And I went to live with my father for a few years until he got ill. And then I went to live with my mother. Those were tough times because then because of the conditions, we started living in inner city communities. And so we never had really good examples of, good role models around us. And we could have been influenced by what we saw, but never did. Because of that, my father kind of led a nomadic lifestyle. We kept moving from place to place. Was sometimes raised by other women. Other people combing my hair. I can recall this old lady, I don't even know who she was, used to comb my hair with some big slack plaits, fat. And I couldn't wait to go wherever I was going, school, go pull them out and go do them over myself, right? But I just thought those plaits were just so ugly. Anyway, even though it was difficult, challenging those neighborhoods, we never really got caught up in the lifestyle that was around us. When I went to live with my mother instilled in us really that we should not mix and mingle really with, the people around. I guess because she thought that we could be influenced and she didn't want that sort of influence for us. So even though while she wasn't there, we'd still go play with some of them, and yes, I usually play cricket and kick football and run tire, if anybody can remember. The tire, and you put 2 sticks in the tire and you run the tire, that sort of thing. I did all of that. I flew kite. I don't know what I never did. I was a perfect tomboy growing up, right? But like everybody else, I was heavily involved in church. And that was basically the only thing that we were allowed to do, to go to church. My mother was so strict. Sorry. Again, because I thought my mother didn't want us to stray and to get caught up in certain lifestyle and for me to get pregnant early. So my mother was very strict in where we would go, personally me as a child. Oh, I must tell you that I was the second to last for both parents. My mother had 5 of us. I don't know how many my father had. I think maybe about 5 or 6 also. Some of them I really don't know. I have older sisters who could be in their 70s now or somewhere there. Yeah, my father had me when he was 56. Yeah.
Michelle, never mind. My mother had me when she was 46.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. So where was I? Yeah. So I was the second to last. And my mother really did not want me to get pregnant. So she was very strict. If we were going on church trip, in order for me to go on the church trip, my friends had to come and beg her to allow us to go, and they would have to vow that they would have to come out to the house to pick me up, to carry me there and to carry me back. If that doesn't happen, Michelle not going on any church trip, right? So that was the sort of sheltered life that I grew up with. And I now understand that my mother wanted to protect me, make sure that, certain things don't happen before the time, like getting pregnant and, get caught up in wayward sort of lifestyle. So that was my early beginning. And I said I grew up poor, but, enjoyed your childhood, playing and that sort of thing. But I think that really shaped who I am today. So my next question is, what were your early dreams and aspirations?
Listen, we used to go, walking was the norm. The post office was quite a little distance away. I mean, like maybe 3 miles. So to go and get letters, you have to go walk and go there. Well, listen to me. In my early years, I wanted to be a postmistress. I was fascinated to see when she took up that set of letters. You go and you ask any letters for, and you say the names of who you're looking letter, and she would take up that whole let, and she just flicking like this and looking, and I thought that was such a nice thing, so I wanted to be a postmistress because it's such a, such a nice private thing to be. Good, but I didn't share it with anybody. I just knew that's what I wanted to be. But then that was childhood days, and all of that. But then my bigger sisters now, listen, I don't think you people can relate very well to what I'm saying, and all the young people listening, because listen, I'm many generations ahead of you all. So Jamaica was different, life was different. And so you didn't have, I went to what was called elementary school, and students went there from, I think, age 7 to 15. At 15, I'm sure you have heard in the work that you're out school. That means you're finished your schooling. And that's by the government. And then those who have the drive, who have people who would motivate them, and who needed to go on further to access further education, did what was called Jamaica local examination, first, second, and third. So that my sisters, all of them above me, they did those exams. And the truth is that we were all high achievers in school. My mother was very quiet, but she was a quiet lady. In other words, she didn't have to speak loudly or anything. But my aspirations changed from being a postmistress based on the structures that were put in at home. First of all, you could never come home and say you don't have homework, because the dining table was where you did the work. So you must have homework. In the center of it was home sweet home. Anybody know what is home sweet home?
Yes.
Is what that?
A lampshade.
And the lampshade, the lamp with the lampshade. Not the shade alone don't give you any light. So it was in the center of the table, and we would have to sit around. So you're either reading your book, or you get assignments, homework that you have to take back. But you had to do work. So I think that's where discipline began to be installed in us, or in me in particular. And at about, maybe about 8 or 9, a new principal came to the school, and he came to the school with fresh ideas, and ideas that had been born out of the fact that the government was now offering scholarship, that's what it was called then, to enable more of Jamaica's children to enter formal high school. So he started the classes, and myself and my sister above me had the opportunity to go to be taught that part of the curriculum that would make us eligible for the scholarship. At that time, there were 2 levels. There was overage, and she qualified for overage, and it meant that she also had to have third Jamaica local. But she did pass the exam before she was 15, so she was well qualified. I didn't have any exams under my belt. I was now being tutored to do the exam. The scholarship exam, we used to call it then. So actually, we both went and sat the exams. And from our school, of those of us that sat, the 2 of us got the scholarship. And I was now sent from Westmoreland to Clarendon College, where I started high school. So your visions are now wider. You have other people that you see, you hear about more things, and where more people are going into other professions, and you have more persons to talk with you and share with you what's out there. And so at that time, my aspiration was to succeed. I didn't have anything in mind which said I want to become that. But later on, because I went through school at Clarendon College, which I think was the best boarding school ever anyone could find, I mean, it carried on and increased upon what I had learned at home. And I think it has fitted me for life in ways that I would not have if I had not gone to that school. Another time we can talk about that, and I can tell you some of the times that we spent there. So by the time I got to sixth form, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I mean, I was dead set on becoming a lawyer. Well, to cut the story short, I can only tell you, in my innocence, I didn't know that it required money and that the opportunities to enter law school in Jamaica at the time were so few and far between. And trying to go abroad. Never forget what the embassy told me after I'd gotten all the things, that I think I could get. He said, I believe you and I think you will do well. But you have not convinced us that you won't go there to work. And you can't work. And since we don't have a crystal ball to see whether or not you will work, we are unable to give you the visitor's visa. So then, reality struck, and I went into pre-trained teaching for a little while, hoping to gain some money. Of all the places, Montego Bay. So by the time you live, you didn't have any money to save. And many people had told me before that they think that I should be a teacher. But then I just thought that's what most country people thought, teaching or nursing, the traditional fields. But that introduction to teaching at that time made me realize that I really liked it. And that's what I later became. So that my early aspirations were born out of that.
As I listened to Joan, in my early days, I can't recall having pinpoint one thing that I said I would want to be. But the most important thing is that, for me personally, is that I wanted to make my mother very, very proud. So earlier I said that we basically had a stable home, and I hope I would be able to talk through this without getting emotional. We had a stable home, but my father died very early while I was in primary school, and he was the breadwinner for the family. And when that happened, I mean, it's like everything turned upside down, because my mother was a stay-at-home mom, and she was basically responsible to take care of the house. In terms of working, she didn't have any experience. I mean, there was nothing much she could do. But when my father passed, she was left with the responsibility to grow three of us. We were very young at the time. She had her first child when she was 35 years old. So we were all very young, and she was left with that responsibility. And it was so hard. It was so frustrating. You mean, to the point where sometimes we didn't have food, going to school, we don't have the uniform, we don't have the shoes. And when I looked and see what my mom did, basically she started to do days work now, just to ensure that she have that income, so that she would be able to send us to school and feed us. And I looked at her and saw how she went above and beyond just to ensure that we had enough to eat. And based on that situation, I don't know, looking back at my life, no, the Lord has kept me. And I'm thinking, based on what I went through then, and I don't know, in everything they said, the Lord is preparing you for something bigger. So during that situation, when we had limited food to eat, we could hardly pay the bills, we can't find the clothes and so on. I think the Lord has been preparing me for everything else that would be happening in my life. So my mother would go out every day and do the day's work so that she would be able to provide for us. And I remember at one point, she looked at us and she said, I am doing this for all of you. Now, after the day's work, now she started to sell in the market. And even though she was selling in the market, and even though she was doing the day's work, At no point in time did she say to any one of us, come and help me in the market or come and help me with the day's work. She wanted something better for us. And so my aim, my focus then was, boy, after seeing my mother put out all of this, I have to do everything I can to ensure that, I make her proud. So my father died when I was in primary school. And then by the time I was in high school, my mother passed. At that point, I was just about leaving high school and I was left with the responsibility. I'm the second child, but I was basically left with the responsibility to take care of my other sibling. I don't know. I think I was placed in that area. Even though I'm the second child, somehow I felt as if that responsibility was mine in terms of my abilities and so on. And so I got a job and I sent my brother to high school, finish high school. So my life was basically on a pause. And I just wanted him to finish high school. I wanted him to make the most of his life. The Lord provided a job. In every bad situation, the Lord always come through. And I remember when my mother died, I was saying, God, how could you allow this to happen? My father died when I was young, and now I'm left without a mother. How am I going to cope? And I got so angry with God to the point that I didn't want to pray. I didn't want to go to church anymore. My church family came to look for me. I didn't want them to come. But in the anger, I heard this still small voice saying, when mother and father forsake you, then I, the Lord, will take you up. And the Lord has been providing. He has been making the way. They said faith without work is dead. I have my dreams and aspirations because the aim is always to make my mother proud. So I do what I can in terms of the groundwork that I'm supposed to put in. I'm not the brightest in school. I don't catch on to things fast. I know my weak points. So I know that I would have to spend a little bit more time in the book. Some persons catch it right away. I might have to do 3 and 4 readings and so on to get it. But my aim was always to make my mother proud. And in the poor situation, I was saying, boy, I really need a way out of this situation. And when I looked at it, it came to me, it said education is the only thing that can really take you out of this type of lifestyle. And I purpose in my heart, I purpose in my mind that, I don't know how it is going to happen, but I'm going to use education as a stepping stone to lift me out of the situation that I was in. And little by little, I was the first one in my family to pass common entrance. We didn't know how we were going to high school, but you move by faith and the Lord provide. And went to high school, got my subjects, and I didn't know how I was going to university. So I started working. And while I was working, I was sending my brother to school. So I had to put my education on a pause. After I was finished with him now with high school, then I worked and sent myself. So I was working and going to school in the evening. And from there, I took time and built myself. But I had this focus, I had this determination. And based on what I see my mother go through just to feed us and clothe us, she wanted the best for us. And because of that, it gave me that drive. It gave me that passion to say, it comes what may. You have to make her proud. Even though she's not here, I am just thinking everything I do is to ensure that she is proud. And, as I often say, it doesn't matter your circumstances. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's that passion to succeed, that drive to succeed that will propel you to move and rise out of the situation. And sometimes we allow our situation to define us. And as we talk about aspiration, as we talk about aspirations, sometimes, because after I finished high school, I still wasn't sure what I wanted to be, but I remember going into the bank and I looked at the ladies in there and how they were dressed, and how polished and professional they look. And I said, boy, I would really like to work in this type of environment. And, stepping stones. So in terms of the aspiration, it was not clear because there are so many things that happened in my childhood to really focus. But, you're still moving on. They said you should always try something until you really find where your passion is. So I'm still trying to find where my passion is, But in terms of working in the finance environment, when I saw the persons in the bank, I might not be there yet, but in terms of my areas of study, that would prepare me for the opportunity.
Millie and Monique are the youngest among us. I'm sure you had your dreams while you were growing up. You want to share what those were?
Well, like everybody's already shared, when I was young, like really, really young, I had no idea of exactly what I wanted to become per se, but I did know that I wanted nice things, My cousin and I used to look around the house and say, oh, when we get our house, we want that's in it, we want that's in it, we want that's in it. Yeah, I have those now. But in terms of profession and in terms of choosing what I wanted to become, I didn't give that any serious thoughts, at the primary level. I think maybe I started thinking about it when I got to about grade 9. And you change your mind so many times. You want to be a ear hostess because, you hear that they dress nice. And funny enough, kids are still saying that. Yes, and they want to be actress and they're still doing it, right? So I wanted to be the ear hostess. I wanted to become a pharmacist. I wanted to become a psychologist. I wanted to become so many things. And, as you grow and you become more in tune with yourself, I realized that I really get excited about motivating people. People always commend me on it too, and people always comment because I love to write, that kind of thing. So when I graduated from high school, doing sixth form and everything, I was really still unsure, but I was leaning towards the pharmacist because I focused on the sciences. It didn't work that way. I went to a teacher's college, thinking that since I love reading, writing, that kind of thing, I would do language, English, but that didn't work either. I ended up doing guidance and counseling, which allowed me to do the empowering thing. And funny enough, after I started working in the area, I realized that it gave me the opportunity to do the things which I always thought of doing as a child. Because I remember when I was young, I used to always, I am always attentive to, for example, I used to watch like a parent walking and their child is walking behind them, and I'm always thinking about that kind of thing. I'm like, that's wrong. Suppose something to the child. I'm always thinking like that. I'm always quick to also pick up on how people feel and always internalizing and writing about it, that kind of thing. And I used to always think, wanting to build, for example, children's home, do that kind of thing. So having started working in my area where I am now and doing some of the activities, for example, taking kids to children's home to do talks and to contribute things to them, presenting to kids. I'm like, sometimes it's like deja vu because I'm like, isn't this what I was thinking of when I was young? And I'm like, it's just that I didn't know the name of the job. I didn't know the title. I just knew that I wanted to do several activities which happen to fall within this area. And I'm like, wow. I guess, you listen to God's calling or his lead, follow his lead. Because like I said, I went to the Michael. I didn't go to, yes, I didn't go to study.
What
this,
did you say? Shortwood?
Yes. No, so, at the Michael, I didn't go to do guidance, but it so happened that it's what I did, and I don't regret it because it has helped me a lot as a person to grow, because before you can really help other people, you must be able to help yourself. Still not a perfect person, but it has helped a lot, and I am happy with it. Not sure I'm done dreaming. I am still dreaming and hoping for other things to come, but for now, yeah, those are some of my aspirations.
Aspirations. Yes, when I was younger, I used to love kids. Well, I still do. So I don't know why, but when I was younger, at probably primary, first, third grade or so, they're always asking, "What do you want to become?" Right? And I had stuck to pediatrician. Right? I love kids, and I don't. At that time I was a baby, so how would I have known that I wanted to be a pediatrician? But, anyways, I grew up going to high school wanting to do that. Right? I remember I went into grade 9, and that completely changed the whole career path. I did the sciences that I was supposed to do, but then I fell in love with another subject, was TD, technical drawing. And from there, it double crossed everything, gone up in flames. What is pediatrician? No. I know wanted to become an architect, and I worked towards that. I left Denby High, and I went to Old Harbour High to do technical drawing in sixth form, because it was not offered at Denby High. So at that point, no, it's time to go to university, and I'm going to the University of Technology now, because that's where the course is being taught. When I go there, I hear that I was supposed to submit some type of portfolio a few months before, and that crushed me. That means now that I was no longer able to become an architect, because to me, I didn't like the office environment to sit down. I didn't like just going to work and doing the same thing every day. So I said, all right, architect is the way. When it didn't turn out, I was upset. I almost cried. And a friend of my sister walked me over to the same building but a different room and said, try this. And that was land surveying. And to my surprise, they actually did the same drawing, just not for the buildings. And I was quite all right with it. So yes, pediatrician and then architecture. Yeah, that's where it was.
So what were my aspirations? I recall, so I have a brother by my father's side that I never met until I learned about him when I was in high school. So I remember that when we started corresponding, he asked me what I wanted to do. And of course, I never know nothing about Oxford, but I heard about Oxford. And I guess I wanted to impress him. And worse him deliver England. Ooh, Michelle wanted to go to Oxford University.
Yes.
Right?
Why not?
Dream big.
Dream big, why not? I mean, I was always the ambitious one, right? Of course, I never knew anything about Oxford, as I said, nor where the money was going to come from to go to Oxford. But me, I dream big. Mm-hmm. Oxford, I was going. But since then, after that, I thought about becoming, like any little girl, becoming an air hostess. Of course, that dream was dashed because I had, packed teeth, or we call it packed teeth, whatever, double row teeth, whatever it was. And I was told that, you would really fit in that because of how your teeth in the shape. So there went that dream of becoming the air hostess. And then I had acne as well. So that was just not going to cut it. My mother really, I don't think, because of her socialization, she never had much information to share with you, to guide you in, career choices, that sort of thing. And so I depended a lot on, what I heard going on around me and what I saw going on around me. So when I was in high school now, I guess I kind of did okay in the sciences. So I did sciences. And I heard everybody talking about they wanted to become a chemical engineer. Who or what is a chemical engineer? Michelle, what do you want to become? Chemical engineer. So I pursued the sciences. Did 1 year in sixth form, and then off to CAST. It was then, of course, that is dating me, right? So it was College of Arts, Science and Technology, now UTech. Went to UTech to go and do chemical technology because that was the closest thing to chemical engineering. So I did 3 years at UTech. Right, so having left UTech now, CAST, worked for 10 years, a decade, as a lab analyst. And then I thought, I'm not quite sure if this is what I want to pursue anymore, because by this time, I thought I wanted to be able to impact people's lives. And then I decided I was going to pursue courses in psychology. And then I did my degree in psychology and management with the aim of, as I said, helping people find their true potential, being able to empower them. Because I thought that, there's a lot of untapped potential in individuals. And if only they were nurtured, if only they were guided, if only they were counseled, perhaps, then they could become much more than they currently see of themselves. So I wanted to make that difference. And so I decided I would pursue psychology. So subsequent to that, I went into, community development work and empowerment work. And this is where I currently am at. Can I tell you, though, that I don't know I think there is still more that I would like to do. There's still more that I would like to do, and I'm still trying to discover what that is. So even though you might think I am, and I'm not all, right? Just putting that out there, right? There's something else I think that I want to be able to do, and I'm still trying to find out what that is, right? So it might be that you're younger than I am, older than I am, but we're not dead yet. We're still on that journey, and we're still trying to discover what else we can do to impact this world before we leave it. So I want to ask, so many of us, based on what I've heard so far, we start out with one aim, one objective, some goals in mind, and we have veered very far away from those early goals. But based on where you are now, what would you attribute as a success? What would you attribute to the success that you have become? Or how were you able to attain the position or the stage that you're at now? What would you attribute that to?
I went to a seminar once, and they said, if your why does not make you cry, it is not big enough. In other words, what it is that gets you up out of the bed in the morning, that gives you that drive, that passion to just go and make something of you out of your life, So it is my why. Knowing where I came from and what I went through, I don't want to go back to that position, right? So I'm always seeking for better. I'm always trying to put myself in a position that I would be able to capitalize on what opportunities are presented. And so, when I started going to school, I remember I said I was working and going to school. I started out with an associate degree, because that was the only thing available face-to-face. Right now you have a lot of online programs. That was not available then. And then I went to the University of the West Indies, and so on. It was my why I need to keep going in spite of whatever is happening around. They said, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. So you have that passion, that drive to fight in spite of whatever is happening around. And sometimes I am at home and, in the house, my husband would say there's nothing here and we need to go to the supermarket. And I made dinner, I made breakfast out of what is there. And he would say, boy, I don't know how you do this. But it's from my childhood days, in terms of the budgeting. Now you need to learn to make something out of nothing and all of that. So it's really because of my background, my past. I appreciate the way how we were brought up. We were taught how to satisfy with what we have. Don't go begging and asking persons. Use what you have until you're in a position to buy or purchase what you want. So based on that now, looking where I'm coming from, always wanting to make my mom proud. And that thing for me as well. Remember I said earlier that I said, education is what is going to get me out of this. So looking at my past, don't want to go back there, wanting to make my mom proud. That is my why, so that keeps me going. And those are the things that drive my success.
Well, for me, at my age and maturity for over time, I have looked back in my own life to see what were the main contributors to what has brought me to where I am. And hands down, to speak frankly, I think that it would have to be a tribute to my mother. You hear me speak, it was a single parent household. It was hard work meaning the kind of work that you do, farming, having cows, having people planting and selling the things and providing. We weren't poor in the sense of not having stuff to eat because we planted everything that we could have. So we weren't short of food. But in terms of having money, I don't think in my childhood, looking back in my childhood, I don't know if we thought of that. Because you just seem to, as Hope said, to be satisfied with what you have around you. And I think something that was instilled in us, that you didn't crave what other people had, and you wanted it. You were just satisfied with what you could have. This is what we could afford. This is what we had. And the sense of family. It is that especially as the last child, I benefited from the exposure and the learning of those that went before. Because how we impacted the ones that came behind. And we are in my family, there are many teachers and principals and nurses and that kind, because those were the common professions. Is that you go to college, you learn something more than what we knew at home. You came home, you shared it, and so we all learned from it. So the next person goes, and that's how it is. So we're constantly learning. And my mother, the structure, the love that she gave to you, she was never excited about how well you did. Because I can remember she would say, when you tell her how well you did in school, she says, that's what I sent you to school for. But if you didn't do as well, she would say, well, you have to try again. She was that kind of mother, never spoke a lot, but her whole attitude and how she related with us. And she was a praying woman that made you just want Hope to achieve, just to make the family successful. Not just her, and it was like the prize for her hard work. You wanted it to be so. So that when I think of all that she did, I don't think that anybody who could try to put dollars and cents to it could come up to say that it is that made you reach there. It was a lot of sacrifice, a lot of prayer, and her faith in God. And I think one attribute, that I can't tell how it is, but I know we learned it. You didn't know everything from home, but you had an attitude to learn whenever you go out. You know, some people can go into a lot of places where things are being demonstrated or practiced, but they come out the same way. Well, there's something anywhere I go, even today. I listen, I look, and if something there is that is new and that I can learn from it, I will do it and practice it. I would say that the second contributory factor is going to the high school that I went. It honed in me, or before that, I think church too. Church, because at very young age, we were participating in church. And so it gave me self-confidence. And therefore, I could speak and would speak from earlier on in life. When I went to high school, I became a prefect in Form 4. And I began to, probably, I don't know, learn, or maybe God had gifted me with some administrative skills. It began to show, and so on. By the time I went to college, I recognized that I was seen as a leader. And I actually was president in the first year for my batch, and college president in the year afterwards, which kind of sometimes it surprises you what people see in you, but then you realize that something was being honed in you, and those things have contributed. So it is probably in the whole scheme of things that I think God had for me that I eventually became principal of a school, you know, and I've had the opportunity to sit in both church and government and other institutions and organizations where I have the opportunity to, you know, give suggestions, be a part of. But I think the greatest thing, I don't know what else I can become, because I believe that when God has a path for your life, it is never over till it's over. I don't know what else I can become. But one thing that I know that has become a passion for me is to help people grow, and become. Because in all my years, especially in the classroom, I have seen so many people who would otherwise have lost their way. Not the math, not the English, not the Spanish, not the geography, but those little sessions, and I'm sure Millicent can relate to them, when you sit with them and talk to them about life, their potentials and opportunities that are out there, and to see them become, and then they can share with you, is out of that conversation. It's not because you were principal, it's not because you were guidance counselor, but just because of these little chats. And I hope that somebody is listening can be influenced by that too. And you become. So I'm always open to learn, and I always feel that as long as I live, I can contribute something. And if I can share my experiences with somebody that can open their eyes to what they can become, I believe, as the song says, my living will not be in vain. I have achieved.
I was one of those young adults in the 20s that believed if you didn't get to some point before you reach a particular 20-odd age, then something is wrong. I believe that to my core, right? It is up until probably 2 or 3 years ago, then I was like, okay, it's not 2 years, probably like last year too. It's okay that you're not at a particular place as yet. But I think I'm the type of individual that is always pushing myself to get to another place. So I know where I am now. It so happened that, coming from school, I've been working ever since I left university. The same month I finished exam, the same month I started working for one of my lecturers. And up until this day, I've been in the same career path, being a land surveyor, working with 3 different commissioned land surveyors. So this is my 3rd one. And while here, I had a classmate that was working at the same place here that I'm working now. He left, but we were all young people, and there was a point where everyone in that office had a side hustle, right? And I said to myself, well, if everyone is having a side hustle, then I should have one as well. And I said to myself, it was 2017 going into 2018, and I started my first company. It was Mullador's Couture online clothing store. And within 5 or so months, it failed. And I was like, this isn't working. I was upset about it because to know that you started something and it failed, it's not a good feeling. And I decided straight away after that, I'm not giving up. I have to start something else. And that's what I did. 2018 in August, I started a new business. Right now, my coworker and I are working at it. And we are doing so well. I think her motivation and my motivation pulls us to where we are right now. But in terms of those businesses, the company, because if it wasn't for the company that I was around, I wouldn't have started that business, right? And then knowing that it failed, and then still pushing myself to create another one the same time, basically. For me, I don't know why, but I love doing new things. I like risking. I like having some sort of risk. I'm always starting and doing something. The same YouTube, teaching. It's it's a whole lot, but really, it's my probably. I don't know why I do all of this, to tell you the truth, but so other than having the support of my coworkers, also I think it was more of a mindset that I created for myself, wanting success, wanting to better myself, knowing that at a particular couple years ago, I wanted to be somewhere, but I was not. And knowing that even though I'm not there as yet, that I can still achieve it, and just pushing forward and getting it, basically.
All right, so I accredit where I am presently to several factors. One of them being that my mother was very strict, in the sense that she worked really hard, and even without her being strict, I tend to be observant of the fact that she was always working. And I thought to myself that there's no way that she can be working so hard and I fail. No, that just does not work. So I think a part of it is me wanting to make her proud. Another factor that I would say is definitely my school, the school that I attended, the Denby High School. Yes. I think it really helps when you have people believing in you and having high expectations of you. Especially if, say, for example, coming from a community, even in the community too, I could be standing waiting for transportation and people would be passing and saying, hold your head up, you're going to school, hold your head up. And I used to, for me, I don't know about other persons, but when people get comments like that, maybe they easily forget it or just count it as nothing. But for me, it meant something. I usually think about it and was like, if these people are seeing me and saying these things to me, it must mean something. So I used to internalize and try to apply. Going to school also, the fact that teachers saw potential in me. They encouraged me a lot and they pushed me. So, in my bid to not disappoint, and my belief also that, I want to make my time count. I want to make my life matter, be of substance. That contributed a lot. Also, I think I developed an early love for reading. So you read a lot, and so you find yourself being motivated and driven also to do things or to try different things. So parents, community, school, church as well, Right. So those things, I think, to a large extent, contribute to where I am presently. Thank you.
Like everybody else, I was motivated by my mother. I saw where my mother had challenges, financial challenges, when I was growing up, the difficulties that she faced trying to raise 5 of us. She had a little job. My mother used to sew, she was a dressmaker. But outside of that, she worked with a factory. At one point, the factory was involved in making clothes, but then things weren't going so well, and they started selling food and, doing the making of the clothes on the side. So she started baking for them and cooking for them. So sometimes how we were fed was by food that was taken home from the cooking on that day. I recall when I was going to high school, my mother would walk from where we lived, which wasn't very close, all the way downtown to work. And she walked with a bag of crackers, and that would be her lunch for the day. And she'd eat her pack of crackers with water. And she earned, I think, $100 it was per week at that time. Was it per week? Yeah, I think it was $100 per week. And she had to give my brother and I lunch money out of that. And we would not go to school without lunch money. 25 cents, I think it was, that we went to school with not too long ago. So, not old, remember? So, but she would make...
We had that about a lot before.
Yeah, good memory. Can't remember
Remember them 25 cents or some big or something.
Yeah. $20. No, I get so much. Yeah. Well, I don't remember about $20, right? So when I went to school, I could only buy a cocoa bread and cheese, and for that reason, I'll know I could eat and not drink for the whole time. I am just used to eating. I would go buy my cocoa bread and cheese at school, and if I needed anything to send that down, water would be it, right? But I saw the sacrifice that my mother made in making sure that we go to school and get a good education. And I did not want to find myself in a similar position like my mother or even my father. My father is a whole different case, right? But I saw the struggles that she had, and I wanted to make her proud. I wanted to take her out of the situation that she found herself living in the inner city. And I, tried my best to do just that. So when I started working, that was one of the first things I did. Moved her out of that area to somewhere better to live. Before she died, I was not in a position to, give her all that she wanted, but we were able to do some. My mother was a motivating force for me being where I am. Another motivator for me also, I remember in going to church or even anywhere, you would notice how people would react to you because you weren't so nicely dressed as they were. Yeah, you never wear the nice shoes or the nice clothes or whatever. And you saw the stares and you realized that you weren't in the same company or the same group. You never had the same friends, you were the outside, like the outcast. And that made me feel, not so nice. And that for me was important. Well, no, it is very important for me not to see children being marginalized because of how they look, who their parents are, because I realized that individual now who not wearing the nice clothes or not wearing the nice shoes or come from some inner city can become the lawyer or doctor of tomorrow. So I try not to discriminate against or allow my children to do just that, because I'm reminded of that. That motivated me to want to look nice, wear nice clothes, wear nice shoes. And for that reason, I have so many pairs of shoes, as I mentioned in my very first episode. So many pairs of shoes now as a result of that experience that, as people don't say, I don't have foot to wear them. Some of them I look at them are dry rotten now, right? But those are some of my early motivations for, trying to be a success.
Michelle, I want to add something too in terms of my motivation, what contributed to me being where I am. Sometimes you grow up in a situation and you just feel that certain things that come your way, certain opportunities that come your way, is like you're not qualified to be in that group or be in that position. And sometimes it's good when persons can see certain qualities in you and abilities, and they're able to compliment or they're able to say to you. I remember when I just started my job, and every second my manager would get, "You're bright, you're bright, you're so fast, you reach up there." And I'm saying, I've never seen myself in that light, but people keep telling you about these abilities and these potential. I see I've gone through university, you get the first class honors and so on. And you're wondering if it is the same you coming out from that situation. I remember when I just finished UE, they asked me if I wanted to lecture a certificate course based on my performance. So these abilities and these qualities, sometimes you don't recognize them in yourself, but when persons highlight them, when persons compliment you, when persons encourage you, it does something for you, and it helps you to own it and actually see it in yourself that you're actually great.
Can I say something? It refers back to when you said you get the honors. Let me tell you a joke about this too. I was going to university, and the subject them did hard for me, right? I was a C student, right? And I remember graduation day. I was standing in line with, you're in alphabetical order. So I'm there. I was talking to my friends, and we used to par with what you would call the bright sparks in my class, right? They were all bright, but the group that I was with, they were, you would call them probably the higher, right? Right. So we were there and we were talking, and it just so happened that it was time for us to get in line. I went back to my W where I was, and I was pulled from the line and brought up to the front. And I was like happy. I was sitting with my friends. Nothing is wrong with that. And we marched in. I was wondering why I was standing there to begin with, but so happened. I just said, all right, let's go. We're going in. And it is not until I went inside, sat down, got one of the booklets, searched for my name. I was wondering why wasn't I finding it. I looked just curious, looked in the honors section, and that's where I was. I did not believe in any instance at all going to university that I would have graduated with honors. And I did not believe it, not even on the day. I was so shocked. I looked around me everywhere. I was like, I even called mommy in sitting down. I was like, "Mommy, you see it?" And to me, when you mention, a lot of people will say, you're bright and think so many good things about you, but you will not really pay much attention because you don't really see it because my boss tells me every single day, you are a very bright person, and he will say some other things that you're like, you don't believe it. But then I started believing it when they started carrying in some new people to work at the office, and I had to basically teach them or whatever on how to use the software, and I was doing it well. And in the middle of it, I was like, "Is that you, Monique?" Wow! So it's a whole lot. when you don't really think of yourself as this way, but then later on it's like, oh.
I want to say something in relation to that too. And sometimes the track record is there, because I'm in marketing and sales. And the performance, when they're trying to pull ideas, the company in general, they would look to you based on your performance. And even at that, sometimes you can't accept it. But you just have to come to that realization that there's greatness in you. Sometimes our situation limits us. But as opposed to you, Monique, because remember I said that education was what was going to take me out of poverty. When I'm going to school, I look for the one with a A. Whatever is for A, and that is what I am working towards. Not A plus. The A plus, I say if I drop to A, that's fine. So I look for the one with the highest figure, and I said that is what I am going to work towards, because I was determined that, I want to use education to take me out of this thing and to help my family and to just make the change, make the turnaround.
So I'm hearing here some important qualities, some important strategies that are useful for success. The support of family, of friends, a determination, a drive, a passion, using somebody else's own experience to provide motivation for you. So you too can use some of what has been discussed to motivate you on your journey in life. It's not going to be easy. You're going to be faced with many challenges. Life will knock you down, as I said earlier, many a times. But you have to find the support when you are knocked down to get up and go again. So the last question I want to ask, what are some of the lessons that you have learned? And what advice would you give to someone on their journey? What lessons have you learned?
All right, Michelle. So I would say that for those who are listening, sometimes the encouragement and support that you get won't come from the people who you want it from or who you expect it from. Contrarily, the persons who you expect it from might be the ones putting you down or causing you to doubt yourself. But on the outside are persons who see the greatness in you, and you must learn to accept those encouragements. You must also dig deep within yourself too and realize that you have the ability to work towards what you want, whether it is something that you want to achieve or something that you just want to have generally. I have learned that, it is what you think about yourself that is most important, because sometimes too, the people around you might believe in you, but your doubt in your own self keeps you back more than anything else. So you might have persons out there telling you that you can, pushing you, giving you all the support, but because you doubt yourself, you're still held in the same place. So it goes both ways. If persons in your immediate circle, people who you expect support from, are not supporting you, learn to support yourself, learn to push yourself, learn to bank on the support that you're getting from persons on the outside. And also, it is important for you to believe in yourself. So I think I heard somewhere once that if everybody else in the world doubts you, it will take millions, billions upon billions before it gets back to you. So if everybody else in the world doubts you, it will take a long time to get back to you. So what that is basically saying is that if the world doubts you, you must believe in yourself. All right.
My lessons learned. Don't limit yourself to your situation or to your past. Your past doesn't define who you are or who you can be and who you will be. You have to have that passion, that personal passion, that personal drive to want to succeed. So it doesn't matter what your situation was. The fact that you're not in that position anymore tells you something, that you're on your journey of becoming who you are. So at all times, remain focused. Just realize that we all have greatness in us. We were put on this earth to achieve something wonderful. The Bible says above all things that God says that in everything He wants us all to prosper. So I believe that there is greatness out there for every one of us. During my class, sometimes I always tell my students, there is A out there for everybody, A plus. But it's the work that you put in that will allow you to achieve that. So the most important thing is that you may remain focused and believe in yourself. Millie mentioned earlier that persons might believe in you, but if you personally don't believe in yourself, you're not going to achieve your God-given purpose, so to speak. Don't believe that some position, some achievements are for other persons. You're not qualified. You don't fit. Who are you based on where you come from to achieve certain things? No. Greatness is out there for everyone. It's not limited. So you have to just place yourself in that position where you'll be able to reach and achieve all of those.
I'd like to add to that, Hope, that greatness doesn't mean that you have to be the best person in the field. Greatness means to me, and I'd like our young people especially out there to understand, is fulfilling your potential. In other words, being the best that you can be. Because the truth is not everybody is going to be A. Not because the other grades are there, and don't consider yourself a failure if you didn't be the person with A. I remember Monique saying that she was C. She was a C student. She ended up in the honors role. But honors doesn't necessarily mean that at your university you're going to be honors. In other words, if what you want to become and you see as your life's ambition is to become, let us say, a carpenter, you can be an A carpenter. The best that you can be. And I think Martin Luther speaks to it about that you should be the best that you can be. Even if you sweep street, you must be the best street sweeper, you know? So it is that what it is that you have the capabilities to become. Fulfill that capability. There are going to be naysayers. You can fall, but rise again. I would like to encourage our young people to read stories. There are so many stories out there that can help to motivate you. Millicent, the reader, she can tell you about people who have got knocked down. Not everybody went to university. When you look at all of us here, we had the opportunity to go to university. But there are many people who may not have the opportunity, but you still can be successful. So it is to find where you want to go. Get all the advice that you can get. How can I achieve this? Money can help you to reach, but it doesn't take money. I hear us all, some of our stories here. We began with nothing. It is not financially, but it is the support of family and friends and the institutions we go and grasping the opportunities that were there. And you climb the ladder at your pace. Not because this person went straight from primary to secondary to tertiary means that it's going to be your journey. You may have to work. Hope said she had to work. She had to take care of family. In other words, we have our own pathway, but you're going to utilize all the strategies, all the abilities that you have to use that pathway to take you where you'll fulfill your potential. And remember that if you think that what you aspire to is because you want money, you will never have enough money to be satisfied. People who have a lot of wealth and money will tell you that they are some of the most unhappy persons. Is what you give back, how you help somebody else. That should be part of your vision if you really want to feel fulfilled in life. So, yes, money is important. Yes, certain perceived professions and jobs seem to be the one that could consider to be successful. But I'm saying to you, what will make you successful? It is that fulfill the potential that you have in the time using the opportunities that you have. And remember that as others have helped you to be there, you must help others to come as well. So I hope that you can look at this, and you may not see where you want to go now, or you may not even be able to determine your aspirations. Send in a question to us. Ask us to be more specific on something. Send in probably what you think you would have wanted to hear. Go to so many places and persons you can find guidance. But by any means, aspire to become. And when you become, and you never stop becoming, but help others to come and to become as well.
I want to add something, Joan, in relation to having that personal dream and aspiration. I will also say that you should align yourself with persons that would be able to contribute to your development. So the persons you have, your friends, your acquaintances, I've learned a lot just being here from the conversation, the wealth of knowledge from each of you. You wouldn't understand how it helps me to think differently, to do things differently. So I think the company who you align yourself, who you associate with, help to make you who you are and to realize your dreams and aspirations as well. Because sometimes we are in our own little corner and we might not be sure how to do things or what steps to take and so on. And sometimes we are in our own little corner doing things that we think is right when there would be a better alternative for that. So it's important for us in achieving our dreams and aspiration that we align ourselves with the right company.
Just quickly, I would like to say that maybe as I think back on all that we've been saying in here, I don't want us to give the wrong impression. If time permitted, I'm sure we could share a lot of experience when we were knocked down and didn't know how you could get up. So I want persons out there to understand that you can be knocked down. And you just don't know where to turn. And I want to suggest to you that sometimes I find a particular program on, I think, TVJ, and it is Profile. You hear some stories of some people that come out of certain circumstances and they have achieved so much. I've heard stories about somebody from this very parish that when she was accepted in a particular perceived prestigious school in Clarendon, she didn't have the uniform to wear and she had to borrow another student's uniform to turn up. That she never had a textbook, maybe for most of the time she studied, and where she got help to live somewhere, she had to study under the street light because she wasn't allowed to use the street. But she was a highly successful person in her area. So don't get the impression that because we all go to university who are sitting here, we've had our stories and we can tell you personal stories from time to time. It has not been easy. Some of us had to make the choice. Do I buy the book? Do I do something, or do I have lunch? I can tell you there were many days when I was on campus that I pick Coolie Plum and eat while I'm walking to my class because I couldn't afford to go to cafeteria. But I knew why I was there and why I had to be there. So many of us had very difficult stories to enable us to achieve. So don't be put off. Don't be discouraged. You can do it. It's not where you're from. It's not the money that's available to you. It is that is where you want to be. And you're going to choose to align yourself, as has been said, with persons who can help you to be there. That is it. You are a success. God made you to be successful. Just embrace the opportunities that He has provided for you and be the success that God intends you to be.
All right. So for me, I'd like to leave with those of you who are watching that if you look at any successful person out there, they have once failed. Failure is never the end point. It is for you to want to be successful because sometimes we say we want this and we want that, but we don't put the energy and the time into making or putting ourselves into the position we want to be. So it's just for us to pick ourselves up after a failure and just know that we have to have the right mindset to just get ourselves in that frame of mind to move forward. And once we do that, we will somewhat attain the successful nature that we want to get to.
Millicent, in wrapping, mentioned the importance of thought and how important it is to change our thoughts. And I found this quotation, it is said by Mahatma Gandhi, who says that your beliefs become your thoughts. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits. Your habits become your values. Your values become your destiny. It doesn't matter how you started this race called life. What is important is how you finish. It's not a 100-meter dash. Think of it as a marathon. You might get weary along the way. You might, in fact, stop at points. You might, in fact, fall at points. Don't stay down. Pick yourself up and continue going. Dream big and act big. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and comment. See you in the next episode.